Till now, about the two different avodas, the two different services of Hashem. One called iskafia, where you hold yourself back, where even though you want to do the wrong thing, you hold yourself back and you control yourself, which is represented by the fact when the Yidden left Mitzrayim, when the Jews left Egypt, they had to run away, versus the time of Mashiach. When Mashiach will come, will be the service what's called ishapcha, where we turned over the darkness into light, and we've turned over the bad into good. That's what we're holding here by Sivvav. V'hinei. Even though we know this service of turning over the bad is better and is a higher service than iskafia, holding yourself back and controlling yourself, nevertheless, there's an advantage to the service of where you hold yourself back, iskafia, over the service of Hashem, ishapcha, where we turn over the darkness. We can move on as it's understood from what it said in Tanya. Tanya is discussing something, a level called an Oved Elikim, somebody who is serving God, serving in the present. And that says the Alter Rebbe over there in Tanya that if you've already changed over the bad, you're no longer called serving in the present. You're no longer constantly at the present moment serving God. Specifically, if you have iskafia, where you're holding yourself back, you are called an Oved Elikim, somebody who is changing his nature. He's controlling himself, holding himself back, and that is an Oved Elikim. That is something which a tzaddik can't do. And through this avodah, through this service, which is called iskafia, it says in the Zohar, specifically, iskafia causes a yikara de kutshabricha b'chulu almin, a revelation of godliness which is in all the worlds, a very high revelation which comes to all worlds equally. And the Rebbe brings down what we know, what the Frierdiker Rebbe explains at length in the Maamar of Basi Lagani, that in order to fight a war, when a king is fighting a battle and he's at the brink and it's coming desperate, then the king is willing to take all the treasures that he's collected, and his parents have collected throughout all the generations, treasures which usually he doesn't touch, he doesn't even let people look at, and he's willing to take all those treasures and spend them in order to win the war. Says the Rebbe, the example from this, when it comes to Hashem, there are levels which are hidden and concealed from all eyes. There are such high levels that usually we can't touch into those levels. As the Pasuk says, Ayin leidasa elikim zulasecha, no eye sees besides for you, Hashem. But in order for us, simple Jews, to overcome our battle with our Yetzer Hara, which is the avodah de iskafia, that is the service which we're calling iskafia, to hold yourself back and control yourself. The Frierdiker Rebbe explains, we give you even those treasures, and we spend them without thinking, we give them out. And who do we give it out to? Simple soldiers, the foot soldiers on the ground. Since the foot soldiers are the ones who do the service without thinking about it, they have mesiras nefesh, self-sacrifice, they give themselves over to the mission just because that's the mission they're told to do. The treasure which they receive, the powers from Hashem which they receive, we spend it, we splurge even more than without any limitations from above. And now we can go back to the question which we started, one of the questions we started with in the beginning of the Maamar. Why is it that even when Mashiach comes, if Mashiach is so much higher than the leaving of Egypt and Yetzias Mitzrayim, why is it that even when Mashiach comes, we're going to mention Yetzias Mitzrayim? Says the Rebbe, now we can understand. Even though the revelations and the levels of Mashiach are so much higher than Mitzrayim, but based on what we have just been saying, that the winning of the war is done by the simple soldiers, iskafia, and for that we give the highest levels, the highest treasures. When Mashiach comes, we won't necessarily have that advantage, because there won't be a Yetzer Hara anymore, there won't be the forces which are trying to get us to do the wrong thing, so we'll seemingly be missing that avodah of iskafia, that service of holding ourselves back. Therefore, we will mention Yetzias Mitzrayim even by Mashiach, in order that we can tap into that level, the greatness of iskafia, that high treasure which Hashem only gives by iskafia. And then we'll have the completion of that as well by Mashiach comes, and our Master Hashem will no longer be concealed.